who did you think were the least credible witnesses? Trooper Paul and Lucky. Are you serious? Lucky Loughran was the least credible? Yeah. Turtle Boy's reaction same as mine. Wait, what? Lucky? What? What?
I think what they could infer from Lucky's, because I thought Lucky was like gave good testimony, but I think what the prosecutor was able to establish is that he wasn't sure of the time. I think that's the only thing that I could have been confused on.
We're about to read how they got to that inference. He didn't report that other piece of accident that occurred, but he remembered all the other details. What other piece of accident?
I think that was the hoop, wasn't it?
Oh, the hoop. Yeah, I gotcha. Why would he not report that he got into an incident with the hoop, but he did report everything else? During the testimony, when he was presenting it to the jury, he did not give us the information. Well, I'm going to beg to differ. He's not really following that, but that's what the juror said.
Hello, legal-minded friends. I'm Karen Cole. Welcome. In that clip, Aussie Insider and I were discussing the juror interview that Turtle Boy published. Please note he has himself commented on this interview and has done a follow-up with clarity, so check that out. The juror interview said that the jury found 2 witnesses less credible. One of them was Brian Loughran, who is also known as Lucky, the plow driver. Now, I found Lucky's testimony to be brave and honest, but I could understand how the jury could draw inferences that he wasn't credible based on the information the prosecutor was able to elicit from his testimony. So let's try and answer this, as I thought what came to my mind when speaking with Aussie Insider was the prosecutor was able to confuse the timeline and discredit Lucky's testimony with inconsistencies and contradictory information, which is the aim of the examination and recross. And it seems to have been effective, according to this juror. So I think the best thing to do is to play Lucky's testimony, and I've broken it down into easy bite-sized pieces. I will add a heading to each clip as to what I believe the prosecutor was trying to achieve. Then I want you to let us know in the chat if you agree the prosecutor achieved his aim, and if the defense was able to clean it up on cross. This is important because the Commonwealth has planned to retry Karen Reid after the judge declared a mistrial. Some of you following the Karen Reid case probably know Karen Reid is accused of hitting her boyfriend, Officer John O'Keefe, with her SUV after dropping him off to go to an after-hours house party at Brian Albert's, who at the time was also a police officer. The allegation is, during a snowstorm, she drove her SUV at a high rate of speed in reverse. And the accusation also is that she did this whilst intoxicated. She left the scene, and as a result of being hit, he sustained injuries and later died due to freezing cold conditions. So, check out my playlist for a catch-up. So, let's get started. Oh, wait. Before we get started, I want to mention a couple of things to you. We will be gifting away some free memberships before the end of this video. So, you still have time to ensure you have enabled gifting memberships. You've got to allow that on YouTube. And if you don't know how to do it, check out my video. It's on the screen. I'll leave a link in the chat for you. Also, at the end of this video, I've got a bit of a surprise for you. You will be redirected to an exclusive viewing of a members-only video as a big thanks for your support. After premiering, it will be a members-only video, so it will be held in the members-only playlist. Legal-Minded Friends Uncensored is where I share anecdotes and stories And in the video that you're going to be redirected to, I don't want to give too much away, but let's just say 2 suitcases were found on the Bristol Suspension Bridge, not far from where our little journey is going to take us. And if you've been watching the Sarah Boone case, you know only too well a body in a suitcase can only mean one thing. So we explore Ashton Court Estate to recognize the beauty around us, as it is important to cleanse our body and mind with the evil that exists when we are analyzing these cases. It's not easy. In my opinion, what the investigating officers did to discredit Lucky was just evil, as the very definition of evil is profoundly immoral, and in my opinion adds just another level of deceit the investigating officers went to in proving their theory. And I may not be the only one with this opinion. Let's listen to Duty Ron, a retired NYPD detective.
Ed Wallace and I are going to dive into the Sandra Birchmore case. And she was in Africa when this all broke, the arrest. And immediately we started communicating. And I wanted to get, obviously, some input from you guys. But I pay attention closely to the website, and I would say this had a tremendous amount of interest from the viewers, from people that were newly subscribed. And I want you guys to let me know, like, this ties into what we got going on with police officer John O'Keefe, Karen Reed trial. You're talking about Canton, the Canton area, the Norfolk DA's office. You're talking about a lot of these players that are dirty.
Duty Ron was speaking about the tragic case of Sandra Birchmore and the shocking parallels to the Karen Reed investigation. He's done several videos on the investigation into the Karen Reed case, so check that out. I will leave a link to his channel and his recent video in the description area below. So let's get started. So let's look at the Cornell Law School for the legal definition of a credible witness. A credible witness is a witness who comes across as competent and worthy of belief. Their testimony is assumed to be more likely true due to their experience, knowledge, training, and sense of honesty. The judge and jurors will use these factors to determine whether they believe the witness is credible. An attorney can show jurors a witness is not credible by showing 1. Inconsistent statements, 2. Reputation for untruthfulness, 3. Defects in perception, 4. Prior convictions that show dishonesty or untruthfulness, 5. Bias. An attorney may also enhance a witness's credibility by showing the witness has always been consistent in their statements. I'll just premise this first clip as the aim of the prosecutor is to establish Lucky's relationship in connection with the homeowner, Brian Albert, where Officer John O'Keefe's body was found. Just so you know, the clips are being played at 1.25 speed. If you want to slow it down to normal, go to the right-hand part of your YouTube screen. You'll see 3 dots. Push that. That's the settings. And you should be able to slow it down to normal speed or speed it up. But the other thing, if you want to watch the full testimony, then I've left you direct links below.
Do you solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case hearing and the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Great. Can I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Good morning, sir. In a good loud voice, would you state your name and spell your last name?
Sure. It's Brian Loughran. It's Loughran.
And where are you from, sir?
Mr. Loughran, I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up as loud as you can, sir.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Maybe put your mouth as close to the mic as you can. Where did you grow up, sir?
Canton, Mass.
Is that where you live?
Yes.
How long have you lived there?
Well, 35, 36 years.
And did you go to Canton Public Schools?
Yes.
Now, in the course of living in Canton, were you familiar with the Albert family?
Yes.
Which members of the Albert family were you familiar with?
All of them.
And when you say all of them, can you name the ones that you were familiar with?
I was familiar with Brian,
Brian Albert?
Chris Albert, Brendan Albert, Kevin Albert, and I believe Kathy Albert is the sister, but I'm not 100% sure on her first name.
Okay, and those are the siblings that you had contact with and were familiar with?
Yes.
Did you know some better than others?
Yes.
Whom did you know the best?
Chris Albert.
What is the age difference between you and Chris Albert?
I believe we're the same age.
Did you graduate high school with him?
He went to a different high school, but yes.
Graduated at the same time?
Correct.
And with regard to your familiarity with Chris Albert, can you explain to the jury how you became familiar with him and what your relationship with him has been?
I went to school with him, elementary school. We went to middle school. Then he transferred to a Catholic school. Then later in years, I began to work for Chris for D&E Pizza, delivering pizzas.
Okay. And approximately what ages were you when you were delivering pizzas for D&E Pizza and Chris Albert?
I was 25, 26 years old.
And how many years did you deliver pizzas for him?
Up until I got married, 35.
So several years.
8 years.
8 years, okay. Back in January of 2022, were you one of the regular snowplowers for the town of Canton?
Yes.
And directing your attention to January 28th of 2022, do you remember that day?
Yes.
What do you remember about that day, the 28th?
It was a potential blizzard. We had been given a start time.
All right. And when you say you had been given a start time, what does that mean?
It means that we're expected to be in our trucks at a certain time on our route.
Okay. And who gives those instructions back in January of 2022?
The supervisor for Canton DPW.
And who was that at the time?
William Walsh.
Also known as Billy Walsh?
Yes.
Now, when were you called in to do plowing that evening or early morning?
We were told to be in by 2:30
And is that 2:30 a.m. or p.m.?
a.m.
Would that now be on January 29th?
Correct.
What time did you arrive at the DPW that early morning?
About 2:15.
When you got there, what did you need to do in order to go out plowing?
I needed to get into my truck and get that prepared to go out.
All right. And your truck, is there one that's specifically assigned to you when you plow?
Yes.
And does that truck have any particular nickname?
Yes, it's called the Franken truck.
And why is it called the Franken truck?
It is a truck that has a lot of different parts than what it's required. It's not parts that were made for that specific truck.
An older one?
Yes. It was a truck that was very uncomfortable at the beginning to use, so they try to make it as comfortable as possible.
All right. And that particular truck, is it used for anything else other than snow plowing?
Yes, it's used for everyday use.
And do you plow alone or with someone?
By myself.
Now, with regard to the visibility in your snowplow Franken truck, can you describe that for the jury, what you can see, what you can't see?
So the Franken truck has an air ride suspensions, an air ride seat, so the seat is raised so I can see over the hood, okay. And I can see about 5 feet on either side of the passenger side, driver's side.
And when you say 5 feet, are you talking straight out from the...
From the windshield, straight out.
All right. And what, if any, lighting do you have on Franken truck?
We have marking lights. We have 2 plow lights that are situated at the corners of the trucks, and it's up high. It illuminates very well. It's very well seen. Okay.
And with the extra set of lighting that you just described, how far can you see off to the sides, in front of you, and directly in front of you?
Probably 5 feet on the sides.
Well, you already testified to that, 5 feet straight out.
Yeah.
But what about the sides going forward?
It's hard to decide to put into words, but I can see a real long distance. That visibility is fine. It is extremely. If you gave me probably 5, 10 feet, 15 feet out, maybe even further.
Okay. And with regard to the lighting, how much light does that give off?
Enormous amounts. It's almost driving with the spotlight.
And with regard to the air ride seats,
Now, I've stopped it there. In my opinion, I feel Lucky is an honest person, though he has struggled with the distance he can see on the sides when he's plowing. And this is going to become really important, and we'll find out in a bit. What I have noticed in court cases with my clients when giving testimony, or when someone is called as a witness to give testimony, they get very nervous, as being in court can be really intimidating. I have no doubt that Lucky knows how far he can see from both sides when he's in the plow, yet he is struggling to give a reliable distance. Is it 5, 10, or 15 feet? I would like to also point out that an average person would be trying to work that out in their mind, right? Like, well, okay, how far is that? So having a demonstrative to show the jury would have been nice, so that they could visualize what Lucky could have seen. And that would have been really helpful, even if he had wavered on the distance. So here, I've provided you with a 3D recreation. Wow, doesn't that make a difference? You can actually visualize in his mind what he could see when he was in the plow. So if a person were on the lawn, he would have easily seen them, wouldn't you think? That recreation is done by Microdots, a YouTube channel, and they have done different recreations of the defense's theory. So check out his videos.
Where were your headlights pointed?
In front of me, in front of the truck.
I'm sorry?
In front of the truck.
And what were you able to see of the front lawn of the Albert residence that very first time you passed?
I was able to see the entire front lawn.
And about what time was it that you first passed 34 Fairview Road?
About 2:45.
Now, as you continued along past the driveway, did you continue to have all of those headlights on in front of you?
Yes.
And as you continued along, what were you able to see of that front lawn? How much of it?
A very large portion, almost to the front steps.
And now, when you're plowing, where is your attention focused, sir?
My attention's focused in front of me and then to the sides.
Why would your attention be focused to the sides?
I am trying to be aware of any side traffic, any pedestrians, and, God forbid, any animals.
And when you were passing the Albert residence, as you pass every home, what attention do you pay to the sides of the road and the lawns that are adjacent to the road?
I'm, again, making sure that there are no animals, no pedestrians, and making sure no one's coming out of their driveways, not expecting to see me.
And with regard to Exhibit 66, do you see the flagpole there?
Yes.
Is that something you had seen previously?
Yes.
And when you made that first pass by that residence at 2:45 in the morning, sir, with your headlights on, what, if anything, did you see on the front lawn in the area of the flagpole?
I saw nothing.
If there had been a 6'2", 200-pound man lying in the snow there, would you have seen it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Now, once you pass the residence, where do you go?
To Cedar Crest.
Now, at this point in time, you would also pass the Albert residence, correct?
Correct.
Would it be on your right or your left?
On my left.
Were you looking to the right and the left as you were coming down?
Yes.
How much light did your headlights illuminate of the Albert's front lawn as you were coming down from Chapman Street?
Coming down Chapman, just about the entire front lawn.
And again, with regard to that area around the flagpole, did you see anything on the lawn?
Nothing.
See a body?
No.
All right. Now, after you've done these two passes, sir, where do you go?
I then take a right on to Cedar Crest. I proceed up Spring Lane, come down Spring Lane, and then do the remaining of my route.
All right. How long did it take you before you wound up back at Cedar Crest and Fairview?
About 45 minutes.
So I think you had previously testified you made the first pass around 2:45?
Correct.
So would that put us at about 3:30 when you're about to make the second pass?
Objection.
The state ask it different.
Sure, I'm sorry. What time was it, to your best estimate, in terms of when you would have approached Fairview and Cedar Crest again?
3:15 to 3:30.
All right. Now, when you approach that intersection again, are you approaching it such that Fairview would be on your left or your right this time?
On my left.
Same as last time.
Correct.
What do you do when you approach Cedar Crest? I'm sorry, when you approach Fairview and it's on your left?
At that point, I have an option. I can go to the end of Cedar Crest, or I can turn around at a street, depending on how much snow I have on Fairview.
And with regard to the decision you made regarding that choice, what decision did you make on January 29th?
Went all the way to the end.
Went all the way to the end of Cedar Crest?
Correct.
Same thing you did the first time?
Correct.
And then you come back up?
Correct.
Is Fairview on your right or your left at that time?
It would be on my right.
And did you take that right?
Yes, I did.
What, if anything, unusual did you see at that time?
At that point, I saw a Ford Edge on the side of the road,
Where was it parked on the side of the road?
in front of the Albert's house,
Where in front of the Albert's house?
by the flagpole.
And why was that unusual?
The Alberts never had cars that were parked out front, and if it just stuck out as weird.
Now, what were the snow conditions like at that point? This is now, I think you said about 3:15 to 3:30.
It's starting to accumulate a lot quicker than what it was previous.
And what policies does the DPW have regarding cars parked in the street during a blizzard where there's plowing to be done?
We are to notify the supervisor. At that point, he will make a phone call to the police, and depending on if they can have the resident move it, it gets moved. If not, it gets towed.
And with regard to that policy, did you comply with that policy in those early morning hours?
No, I did not,
Why?
because I was being courteous to the Albert family.
Now, once you saw the Ford Edge parked on the side of the road near that flagpole, what did you do?
I had to go around the vehicle, and as to not hit the vehicle.
All right, and probably obvious, but as you're approaching the vehicle, was it faced in the same direction that you were traveling?
Yes,
And so you're going around to the left or the right of the vehicle?
left.
And once, as you were approaching that vehicle, were you able to see on the right side of that vehicle, but the lawn side?
Yes.
Did you see anything on the front lawn at that time?
Objection.
I'll allow it. Did you see anything?
No.
Lights were still on.
Correct.
All right, now, once you passed the vehicle, did anything attract your attention at all?
No.
All right, where do you go?
I go up to the end of Fairview and do the same process, take a left on Chapman and back down Chapman and take a left into Fairview again.
Once you come back down Fairview, do you pass the Albert residence again?
Correct.
Was there that car that you saw?
Correct.
It moved from when you passed it the first time.
No.
Were you able to see the front lawn of the Alberts in front of it? As you were coming down Fairview towards Cedar Crest?
Not as much as the first time because the car blocked the view.
All right. Now, after that, how long did it take you before you came back to that area to plow again?
About 3 hours.
Do you recall about what time it was that you wound up back on Fairview?
I don't honestly recall what specific time.
Sure. Approximately, if it was 3:15 to 3:30, that second time, what would be your best estimate of the time when you came back?
I would say if I had to say, it would have been 5:30 up Fairview, and came back down, and then at that point I wasn't able to go further than Carriage Lane.
Okay, and when you say that you went up Fairview and came back down, you initially went from which side of Fairview?
Right side.
What would that be, the right side? I'm sorry. Would it be the Cedar Crest side or the...
It would have been Cedar Crest side.
Coming from Cedar Crest, and then you went up Fairview, came back down?
Came back down. As I'm going up, I am actually seeing first responders. And at that point, as I'm coming back down, the road's blocked at that point.
Okay. And when the road was blocked, what, if any, plowing were you able to do after that on Fairview?
I was able to go as far as Carriage Lane and then turn around.
Okay. And then I imagine it was several hours before you could plow again?
Before I could plow Fairview to the end of Cedar Crest, yes.
All right. Now, I'd like to direct your first time that you were approached by the state police in this case? Do you recall?
I don't recall the actual date, but I do know.
Year?
Yes,
What year was that?
2023.
And do you recall the name of the investigator that approached you?
Mike Proctor and Sergeant, and I can't pronounce his name. I don't want to.
If I said Buchanan, would that ring a bell?
Yes, it is.
February 15th, 2022, when you had this meeting with Paul, you told him about 3:30 or 4 a.m. Is when you saw this Ford Edge on Cedar Cliffs, correct?
Correct.
Now, in fact, when you first spoke to this individual named Paul, you didn't tell him it was a Ford Edge, correct?
No, told him it was a Ford Edge.
You didn't tell him first that it was a small SUV?
No, told him it was Ford Edge.
Do you remember at any time Paul taking you on the parking lot and showing you different vehicles and asking you if those vehicles matched what vehicle you saw?
No. He wanted to make sure that what I was telling him was accurate. So he showed me what was a Ford Edge, but I had already told him it was a Ford Edge.
So he brought you out to the parking lot at the skating rink that you were meeting at, specifically showed you a Ford Edge and asked you if that was the vehicle.
Correct.
Now, do you know sort of the difference between, if you were to see a Ford Edge at nighttime in a snowstorm, the difference between a Ford Edge and a Jeep Cherokee?
Yes.
What's the difference?
The taillights in the back.
What about it?
Ford Edges are more round. The whole back facade is a little bit more round. A Jeep Cherokee are more square.
Now, what color was this SUV that you saw?
I can't tell you that. I am colorblind.
Can you tell, I'm just curious, sir, as far as your colorblindness, can you tell whether or not an object is dark or light just by looking at it? Or you can't tell at all?
I can see things that are light. I can see things that are dark. I can see true colors. I can't see shades of true colors.
And so from what you saw, was this light or dark?
Light.
This Paul individual on February 15th, that the SUV that you saw was exactly where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found, correct?
Correct.
How do you know where his body was found?
I told him specifically if he was looking at the door, the front door, it was about 3 feet to the left of the door. And with
To the left of the door?
looking at the front of the door to the left of the door, pushing it up Fairview.
So if he wrote in his report that you told him that the vehicle was exactly where the body was found, that would not be true?
Objection.
No, I'll allow that.
Could you repeat that question, please?
If he wrote in his report that you told him that the SUV was exactly where the body was found, that would not be true, would it not?
That would be true. The car was to the left of the door, putting it in front of the flagpole.
My question for you, sir, is how do you know where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found? At any point in time, did you see Mr. O'Keefe's body on the front lawn?
No.
So how do you know where Mr. O'Keefe's body was found?
Through police reports, police interviews, stuff that was posted on the media.
So you've seen police reports in the media?
Well, not the police reports, I'm sorry, but what was said during on the news.
So what you've heard on the news, not necessarily what you saw or what you know yourself, correct?
Could you repeat that question, please?
You're recounting sort of what you've heard or saw on the news, so this doesn't come from your personal knowledge or anything about where Mr. O'Keefe was, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you also spoke with some other individuals in May of 2023, correct?
Correct.
Now, did you tell those individuals that you actually came in, and when you say came in, you come into sort of the main sort of hub or the shed on Boulevard Street, correct?
Correct. We punch in.
That's where you punch in and you pick up your truck and you sort of do your checkpoint around the truck and then you go out and play.
Correct.
The other people that you talked to in May of 2023, did you tell them at that time that you actually came in around 11:30 p.m. to 12 a.m.?
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that or you didn't tell them?
I don't remember that.
So that would be a significant difference, 11:30 p.m. to 12 a.m. from 2:15 a.m. and 2:30 a.m., correct?
Correct.
Now, you also indicated to them at that time that you went past Fairview at approximately 12 a.m. and 2 a.m., correct?
I never did 12, but it was definitely 2:30,
So if they
2:40,
wrote that in the report, that
2:35.
would be inaccurate as well, correct?
Sustained, and only one person can talk at a time.
I apologize. I'm sorry, sir. Please continue and finish your answer.
I didn't hear the question.
Okay. Well, let me ask it again. So as far as if that was contained within a report regarding that conversation in May of 2023, that you went past Fairview Road or went down Fairview Road at 12 a.m. and 2 a.m., that would not be accurate, correct?
Objection.
Sustained, ask it differently.
Did you go down Fairview Road at 12 a.m. and 2 a.m.?
No.
If that were contained in a report of your conversation you had in May of 2023, would that be accurate?
Objection.
Sustained, ask it differently, Mr. Rowland.
Now, as far as that conversation that you had in May of 2023, did you tell those individuals that you saw the vehicle around 1:30 or 2 in the morning?
Again, I don't remember ever saying that.
Is that accurate as far as whether or not you told them that?
Again, I don't remember saying that.
Did you see a vehicle around 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning?
I wasn't on the road at 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning.
Correct. Now, do you also recall telling those individuals that Fairview Road was blocked off by cruisers at about 3 or 3:30 in the morning?
Again, that would have been incorrect.
Do you recall saying that in May of 2023?
I do not.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes. Show counsel.
So I'm going to ask you to read, join me, Doc. I'm going to ask you to read this paragraph, and this paragraph to yourself, okay? And then whenever you're done, just please hold on, okay? Are you finished, sir?
Yes.
May I approach this retrieval?
Yes.
Thanks. Mr. Loughran, after having reviewed that, as your memory refreshed as to that conversation you had in May of 2023,
No, it does not.
do you still, after reading that, don't recall telling anybody in May of 2023 that you came in around 11:30 p.m., 12 a.m. on the 28th, 29th?
I never came in at 11:30, 12:30 at night. It was 2:30 calling.
You don't recall indicating to anyone in May of 2023 that you went past Fairview at 12 a.m. and 2 a.m.?
Correct, never did.
And you don't recall telling anyone that you saw the car around 1:30 or 2 a.m.? Is that correct?
Correct.
And you don't recall telling anybody that the part of Fairview containing 34 Fairview was blocked off at 3 or 3:30 a.m., correct?
Correct.
Now, if the part of Fairview that you were talking about, so you didn't say that in May of 2023, because at 3 or 3:30, the roadway wasn't blocked off, correct?
Correct.
It was blocked off sometime around 6 a.m., correct?
Correct.
And so if you had said that the roadway was blocked off at 3 or 3:30 in the morning, and it was actually 6, then when you saw the vehicle would have been off a little bit as well, correct? Objection.
Sustained.
Seeing the car at 1:32 in the morning, with the road being blocked off at 3 or 3:30 in the morning, if the road's blocked off at 6 a.m., then that actually would have been, you saw a car sometime around 5 a.m., correct? Objection.
Sustained.
Sure you didn't see a black Lexus SUV in front of the house at 34 Fairview Road around 5 a.m.?
No.
Now, you also were asked some questions and you spoke to some troopers in August of 2023, correct?
Correct.
And County Canton, they have a parking ban in Canton, is that correct?
Correct.
That goes from November until April?
Correct.
Now, part of your plow route is a road called Tippy Cart, correct?
Correct.
Where is Tippy Cart in relation to Fairview?
It is on top of it's on the right side of Cedar Crest. It would put it 2 streets before Fairview.
And at some point, when you were plowing on Tippy Cart that night, you actually hit a basketball hoop, is that right?
Yes.
And did you call that in?
Yes.
And as a result of that, what happened with the basketball hoop after that?
Nothing. The point was to make sure I was covered, basically. That's why I notified my supervisor that I hit the basketball hoop.
And about what time was that you hit the basketball hoop?
I don't recall.
Is it closer to when you started, closer to when you ended?
I don't recall. I don't recall what time.
So you don't recall anything specific about that time, correct?
No, just that I know I hit the basketball net.
And obviously, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth or anything, sir.
Just that I know I hit the basketball net.
And obviously, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth or anything, sir, but you didn't intentionally hit the basketball hoop, correct?
Correct.
So you hit it because you didn't see it, correct?
No, I was attempting to avoid the net by going around it, and the machine had a different size body than what it originally had, and I underestimated when I was going around that I need to be wider.
So you misjudged the distance, is that fair to say?
Yes.
You're sure about all the times that you went down Fairview Road?
Yes.
And you have no idea what time that you went on Tippy Cart and you struck the basketball hoop, is that right?
If you ask me to guess, I can guess for you.
I'm not asking you to guess, sir. I'm asking you to know.
I don't recall exactly what time I hit that net.
Nothing further.
All right. Anything, Ms. Giannetti?
There's just one question I want to make sure that we understand what's going on.
So no statements, right? Just ask a question.
I always do that. I apologize, Your
Okay.
Honor. You were asked a question by Mr. Lally. Are you sure you didn't see a black Lexus at around 5 a.m. in front of Fairview? And your answer was no. And my question to you is, does that mean that you're not sure if you saw one or that you didn't see?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
I did not see a Lexus at 5 a.m.
At any point that night while you were plowing,
No,
did you see a black Lexus in front of 34 Fairview?
no.
Thank you, sir.
Very briefly, based on your timeline, were you on Fairview Road at 5 a.m.?
Yes.
How so, sir?
It was about 3 hours after the last time I went on it. So it put me, I was last on it at about 3:45, about 5:30.
You were on the road about 2:45, and you said it took you about 45 minutes to sort of do the loop and come back, correct?
Correct.
And from the time that you were on there, including the time that it took you to plow and the time that it took you to do all of those things along the route, you're coming back to Fairview Road at 45 minutes later, or it took you 45 minutes to do the route?
It was about 45 minutes.
And so from there, 45 minutes, from what time are we talking that you were first there? Said about 2:45 or so?
About 3:30. With some,
3:30, okay. So about 3 hours after that would then be about 6:30, correct?
it was about, I mean, I know I went up there and saw the first responders coming down. And when
What I'm asking is, you had testified that you may, or you were on Fairview Road around 5 a.m. If you're not returning for 3 hours later, and that's about 6:30 from 3:30, correct?
Correct.
So then you were not on Fairview Road at 5 a.m., correct?
I was. The time that it took me to do what I needed to do put me there about 5. So when I'm coming down Cedar Crest from doing my route, I am constantly looking at Fairview to make sure that it's considered a main road. So we need to take that as a priority. So if it's a lot of snow on that road, I am going to go turn around and do the road so that the road is available. So first responders have access to that road.
So what I'm saying is, you testified, your timeline, that you came down there around 6:30 in the morning, correct?
My timeline was 5:30.
So 3 hours
5:30?
after 3:30.
It was 45 minutes.
45 minutes was from 2:45 to get you to 3:30. Then 3 hours later is 6, correct?
It was about 45 minutes because I didn't get a lot of time. At that time, the snow was coming down at a significant rate, and I needed to make sure Fairview was kept clear. So I come down and I check. So I have the streets are all around Fairview. They're 5-10 minutes around Fairview. So the furthest street from Fairview is Kings Road.
So my question is, are you talking about coming down Fairview, or are you talking about being on another road and looking at Fairview?
Coming down Cedar Crest, looking at Fairview.
Despite that timeline that you gave earlier?
I am always looking at that street.
Nothing.
All right, Mr. Lochran, you are all set, sir.
Thank you.
So to find Lucky not credible, you would have to believe the report of him being interviewed by state police who did not record it, and who were responsible for the other missing evidence, like the 40 minutes of Karen Reid's SUV at the Sally Port, and the prosecutor presenting that doctored video inverted to make it look like right was left. Check out my video of the other inconsistencies these officers told. Then decide if they are capable of changing the times Lucky told them. If we disregard the written report by law enforcement, I found Lucky to be very credible. He did not waver on his timeline. I wonder why the defense did not provide the time cards for when Lucky did clock into work that night. I can only assume that they didn't have them, but we'll talk about that in a bit. And I pointed out having a demonstrative to show the distance Lucky could have seen might have helped the jury, but now I want to point out something else the defense could have easily done.
Shows 2 vehicles in the driveway of 34 Fairview Road.
And Ms. Gilman, the next photograph. Any of those are Ford Edge?
If you could, Lieutenant, when you locate this, indicate
which exhibit we're looking at in this one.
That's exhibit 28. It's
second
a
one might
different
be-
angle in the third car.
So it was a little bit hard to hear. That's why I wrote it on the screen, but he definitely said that was a Ford Edge. LV Cops TV are a YouTube channel. They are based in Las Vegas. They are retired police who provide their views and share their experiences and knowledge. And they have a lot to say about how law enforcement did this investigation regarding Karen Read, so check them out. Because the prosecutor made such a big deal of Lucky stating that he saw the Ford Edge on the road, preventing him from plowing around it, I wondered if it would have made a difference to the jury if the defense would have had Lucky look at that exhibit and ask him, what is in the photo? And assuming he would say, that's a Ford Edge. Then he could have had a follow-up question like, is that the Ford Edge you saw on the side of the road blocking your view from the property? Assuming Lucky would have said yes, then the defense could have showed Karen Read's SUV and the Ford Edge side by side and asked Lucky to point out the stark differences in the taillights that he had already testified to, because the prosecutor did try to say that he didn't know what the difference was. And I think Lucky knows the difference. What do you think? Would that have been a slam dunk? I also wondered why the defense did not have the time card of when Lucky clocked into work, or why the plow company didn't have the accident report log for when Lucky hit the basketball hoop. That would have shown and confirmed the times, surely, right? Or did they mysteriously disappear like other things have in this case? And that might have just given the jurors enough pause to think, what's going on here? So what do you think? Can you understand why the jurors were not sure of Lucky's testimony and found the testimony to be less credible? Do you think the defense could have made a bit of a difference? Well, let me know. But do stick around, because I'm going to redirect you to an exclusive premiere members only video available to everyone. So for now, and then it will go into the members only list. So hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you in the next one.